Well, good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome indeed to today's webinar, which is the first in our new SFJ Awards Insights series. My name is Candice Miller, and I'm the Managing Director of SFJ Awards, and I'll be hosting this event today. The Insights programme, of which this is the first event, has been developed in response to feedback from a customer survey we ran last year, which showed that SFJ Awards centres would welcome us putting on events like this. And I know a number of you are logged in today, so welcome. So here we are. Later on, we're going to be asking you what you'd like us to cover in future Insights sessions. We've got 3 speakers for you today, and they'll be presenting over the course of the webinar. We'll introduce them properly as we go through. But one person I want to mention up front is the fabulous Zoe Printer. He's working in the background to ensure the smooth running of this event. Before we begin, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping points so you know how to participate fully in the event. I'm sure we're probably all now far more familiar with how Zoom operates than we probably would like to have been. However, just in case, a couple of quick points for you. At any point during the webinar, you can submit your questions for our presenters. To do so, just type your question into the Q&A feed that you should find at the bottom of the control panel. You can also upvote questions that resonate with you the most. And as time allows, the presenters will address just as many questions as we possibly can during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Any questions that we can't answer, we'll reply to afterwards. It's difficult to do, I know, when we're not all in the one place, but we would rather like this webinar to be two-way as much as we can. So the best way to do that is for you to add any comments for speakers and other attendees in the chat function. And again, you'll find that at the bottom of the screen. It might be good, if you're willing, to just pop your name, your role and your current location into the chat, because unlike most events of this sort where we're all in the one room, we are all scattered across the country. So if you want to just pop that in now, that would get you started and you'll know how to use that effectively. Also, to kick things off and just to demonstrate the use of one of the other interactive elements we're going to be using today, we're just going to pop up a quick poll. So if Zoe is going to stick that on screen, if you want to just take a moment, answer that, click submit with whatever suits your views best of how your day's going. We'll see what that looks like in just a moment or two. And at least you'll have had the chance to then have begun to say it. And I can see a few people sticking in the names, and that's great. Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing where everybody is. I'm sure we're probably well scattered. I will do that myself in a moment or two from sunny Shropshire. Over the course of the event, oh, and here we go. Oh, okay. So actually, one person, or a couple of people anyway, really hoping for the weekend. You've got a little bit to go before that. But actually, generally speaking, it looks like we're having a good enough day. I think it's good, but it's busy, and that's always a good place to be. So let's move on. At the end of the event, as I said, we're trying to say, we're going to share the slides with you. We'll send you a link to the website, and you'll also get a recording of the webinar. It is currently streaming live on YouTube as well. We're going to put some other polls up throughout the event, so do engage with those as well as they pop up with you. For those who requested the limited edition webinar packs, hopefully you've received them now. But if not, don't worry, they're on the way. So here's how the webinar is going to run. Just to kick off, I'm going to give you a bit of an overview of our aims in developing the custom certification services. I'll also share a short animation that will be going up on our website after this webinar. You get to see the premiere today. After that, my colleague John Clark, who's Head of Awards and Assurance at SFJ Awards, will delve a bit deeper into the different types of certification services that we offer. And John will talk you through the features of each, how they differ, and he'll talk about the application process as well. Following on from John, we'll be hearing from the customer's perspective, and that's in relation to the experience of securing customer certification and working with us to do that. I'm delighted to say that Brian Moore and David Atkin, who come collectively from GSA, will be joining us to talk about their experience of working with us as an early adopter of one of the elements of the custom certification services. And then we'll have time for a Q&A session at the end. So please don't forget to stick your questions into the Q&A. First off, I want to say something about why we're launching the new custom certification services. With over 20 years worth of experience in assessment and quality assurance practice, Our goals at SFJ Awards are all about providing confidence, assurance, certainty, impact and trust for our customers and the end users of the various services that you provide. We work to deliver these goals on a daily basis through the services we offer, the design and the development of those, and also the support we provide our customers in delivery. And these goals set the direction for all of our work. Critical to how we deliver on those goals is working in partnership with our customers to develop new services, new products, and to solve the challenges that you face and to meet your emerging needs. Over this year, we've all seen the vocational education and training world have to adapt rapidly to the pressures of COVID-19. Change processes that were already in train have been accelerated to enable learning to continue in a socially distanced world. To help with that, we've also evolved our own assessment and quality assurance processes. We've introduced online assessments where they weren't in place before, and we've been expanding e-certifications, all with the aim of enabling centres to keep on operating and learners to carry on continuing on their development paths so that they can receive those valued certificates insofar as possible. And today, what we want to do is share with you the latest evolution in our services, our new custom certifications. Most people know SFJ Awards for our regulated qualifications, and we're very proud indeed to be the major provider of regulated qualifications other than higher education degrees for the protected services sectors that we serve and out of which we grew. However, we do know that sometimes going the full stretch to have a qualification regulated may not be what an employer or a training provider needs. Regulation can be a lengthy process, rightly so, given the rigour involved. But for specialised and bespoke programmes of learning, regulation may not be appropriate or wanted. Yet we know that learners and employers really do appreciate certification from a trusted body. So we took a look at what we could do and how we could help centres and employers to benefit from our expertise in quality assurance and assessment across a wider range of contexts and in these challenging economic times in which reskilling and upskilling needs are likely to grow. In the past, SFJ Awards have provided one type of custom certification, variously called accrediting learning professionally or ALP or custom qualifications, depending on the sector, for some time. And we know from feedback just how much our contracts have valued that. But what we wanted to do in response to your feedback from those surveys was to give you the opportunity to access more flexible certification options suited to different environments and different forms of learning, confident that they were still being supported by the expertise of a trusted awarding organisation. And furthermore, responding to customer interest, we've extended beyond education and training to apply our expertise in quality assurance to other forms of process evaluation as well, particularly related to safety, security and wellbeing concerns. And you'll hear more about that from John and our guest speakers from GSA today, Brian and David. So hopefully that's given you a brief flavour of what we've been trying to provide in bringing forward the custom certification services that we launched today. Trusted recognition of achievements with the flexibility to add the prized benefits of certification by a recognised awarding organisation across a wider range of contexts than before. We're excited about this development and we hope you will be too. I'd now like to just share a short animation with you before handing over to John to give you some more detail about each of the elements of the new custom award certification services from SFJ Awards. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. We certainly had some fun putting it together. That will be going up on our website, and I think it possibly runs slightly less jerkily, a little bit of jerky movement there at the back end, but you can say you saw it here first. So don't forget, as we go through this event, please post any questions that you have into the Q&A or comments that you want to raise into the chat function, including chatting to other members of the webinar attendee list, who number of people putting themselves into the chat. So do feel free to use it to have a chat with them as well. What I'd now like to do is just hand over the controls to my colleague, John Clark, who is SFJ Awards Head of Awards and Assurance Services. John's going to take you deeper into the features of each of the new custom certification services and the processes involved. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Candice, and I'm delighted to welcome you today to the formal launch of our custom certification service, which provides you with a flexible and agile service to meet your certification requirements. I hope that you will enjoy the presentation today and recognise that one size does not always fit all, and when it comes to providing recognition for programmes of learning and quality assurance processes, that's what we're trying to support. Before we go any further, let's have a quick poll to check what your reasons might be for offering certification to your customers. If you have any questions while I'm going through this presentation as well, please pop them into the Q&A area in the control panel. So we've got the results through. The highest percentage is for all of the above, which was all of the services that we offer: recognise and celebrate success, provide credible evidence, and to enhance motivation. So that's great to see that there's a broad spectrum of responses there. So thank you. So just moving in now to my presentation today. As we run through the various stages, I'm pleased to tell you that you'll be receiving one of our custom certificates. So after today's webinar, we'll be issuing you with an SFJ Awards certificate of attendance in recognition of your participation in this event today. So looking at the first slide that we've got here, at a glance, Candice mentioned earlier, surveys and feedback have recognised the value of our existing programmes, accrediting learning professionally and custom qualifications. So we've used this as a base from which to launch our new custom certification service. There are 3 tiers covering certificate of completion, achievement, completion, attendance and verification, with increasing requirements for quality assurance. These tiers are designed to provide stakeholders and employers with confidence in achievements, and our new custom certification service is designed to reflect the different levels of quality assurance needed to meet your specific requirements associated with the learning provision being certificated, processes that are being certificated. Recognise that regulated industries tend to expect professional bodies and associations to ensure a mandatory CPD policy is implemented across a wide range of various roles and job functions within that sector. We will be more than happy to work with you to ensure that your CPD learning programmes are recognised by your respective membership bodies and associations. So I'd like to talk you through some of the key features and differences of each of the levels. And as you'll have seen in the video, these are the new tiers and the new approach that we've got. So starting with the certificate of achievement, this is suitable where the learning and development programme is unique to your organisation and is of a standard that would enable it to meet regulatory requirements. However, you wish it to remain uniquely offered by you and no other provider to offer it. Tier is relevant where the structure and design of the learning product you want to have certificated involves clear learning outcomes and assessment criteria, a requirement that learners demonstrate a defined skill level that has been set as a benchmark for success, formal assessment of learners' acquisition of skills, knowledge, and competencies and expertise, but also with robust internal quality assurance procedures that are comparable standard to regulated provision. Added assurance prior to first certification, SFJ Awards will conduct appropriate external quality assurance sampling activity with you. This tier of certification is only available to SFJ Awards approved centres. By becoming an SFJ Awards approved centre, you'll enhance your credibility and be recognised for the calibre and quality of your offer. Be able to provide additional progression opportunities to your learners at all stages of their careers and professional development. Gain access to a wide range of sector-specific qualifications that appeal to many different learners and employers' needs. Provide your learners with certificates that value their achievement. Next tier for us, next approach is a certificate of completion, which is suitable for providers who want to have their unique learning and development program certificated by a trusted third party. It's relevant where the structure and design of the learning product you want to have certificated involves clear learning outcomes and assessment criteria, measurable assessment of learners' acquisition of skills, knowledge, competencies and expertise, with internal quality assurance of assessment processes. SFJ Awards will use our expertise as sector specialists to check and provide advice to assure you that the learning outcomes, assessment criteria, quality assurance processes you design are good quality and fit for purpose. We will review your internal quality assurance sampling strategy and either confirm that you're meeting best practice standards or recommend and support further action. And within this tier, you will be recognised as an SFJ Awards CCS provider, which is different to being a recognised centre. When we come to the certificate of attendance, this is suitable for a wide range of bespoke learning and development activities, and the following types of informal learning activities and programs and events, such as corporate training days, workplace coaching and or mentoring programs, online self-study programs, webinars like you're attending today, seminars, volunteering programs, team buildings, and as a result, you'll also be recognised as an SFJ Awards CCS provider. You can see there are a wide range of certification services that cover what could be classed clearly as CPD programs, and whether it's adding value and portability to a CPD learning program, giving extra confidence in the relevance and robustness of an in-house seminar or webinar, or providing independent confirmation that your assessment process has been conducted to the required quality standards. Using the SFJ Awards Custom Certification Service enhances confidence and trust in the value of certification for your learners, employers, and stakeholders. And as Candice alluded to earlier, we don't stop there. Now for something slightly different or very different. We've introduced a new program which we'll be exploring in more detail later in the webinar, with a presentation from Global Secure Accreditation, who've recently utilised this service for the COVID-19 Certificate of International Good Practice Standards for Hotels and Tourism. Features of our new organisational verification are the bespoke programmes which evaluate and recognise an organisation's compliance based on an approach and specification, such as processes, practices or standards that are unique to your organisation. It's relevant where the specification you want to certificate an organisation against and in the manner in which you propose to assess them require the following to be in place: a clearly defined set of documented processes and procedures, the identification of evidence of good practice, assessment processes that are undertaken by an individual with an appropriate expertise in the areas of practice being evaluated, quality assurance processes that are fit for purpose based on the practices being reviewed, identification of opportunities for continual improvement are identified and implemented, and where necessary, corrective or preventative actions are measured via documented action plans. Again, with this, you will be recognised as an SFJ Awards CCS provider. So what does our certification service mean to you? There are many features and benefits to our approach to custom certification. It enables you to demonstrate appropriate levels of quality assurance to ensure the consistency, fairness and robustness in the assessment processes used, provides an independent review of the value of your specialist and short learning programs, other evaluation processes for which there may be no other form of recognition available. It gives organisations and groups the opportunity to develop accredited services which benefit local employer or customer needs. It provides participants with the portability for recognition of their achievements. Also creates opportunities to develop new partnerships which support you and your learners or other customers. You can have your logo included on the certificate as well. So how do you apply for this service? As you can see, the application process is fairly straightforward. You're an existing centre or new to SFJ Awards. We'll guide you through the process, and our application forms provide you with the structure and framework to guide and assist you, whether it's adding value to portability to a CPD learning programme or to a full certificate of achievement. Our approach to pricing, as we said at the beginning, one size does not always fit all. So when it comes to providing recognition of programs of learning, we offer a pricing structure so you only pay for what you actually need. If you're currently an existing ALP or custom qualification provider, these will continue to be available until the program reaches the current renewal date. At least 1 month prior to the renewal, we'll work with you to identify whether you wish the program to continue. If you do, we will provide you with the guidance on the most appropriate custom certification service to meet your requirements. As I mentioned at the beginning, one size does not always fit all, so when it comes to providing recognition of programs of learning, we want to ensure you only pay for what you need. And as this custom service designed around your needs, provide you with a personalised quote taking into account the features, benefits you are seeking for certification. I'd like to take the time now to thank you for giving us the opportunity and for you sparing your time with us today. I do hope that you have found this an informative and useful approach, and that I can be of more help and assistance in the future.
Okay, many thanks indeed, John. Clearly a lot of thought's gone into the design of the new services. And I'm actually aware that word of mouth has gone round anyway, to the extent that you and your team have already been receiving expressions of interest from a number of organisations. And I suspect you may have more people getting in touch after today. And I would back up the suggestion that you made there. Just get in touch. If you just want to know some more before you commit to anything, that's absolutely fine. Just come and speak to us. We've had a couple of comments and questions coming in, which we'll come back to at the end. So if anybody's got any further questions for John, you want to know any more detail, please just pop them in, and if we can, we'll answer them later. And if not, we'll pick them up subsequently. But for now, let's move on to our next speakers. We thought it was particularly important to you to hear from an organisation that's been an early adopter of SFJ custom certification services. So I'm very pleased indeed to say that our next speaker has kindly agreed to come along today to talk about their experience of working with us to get their custom certification in place. The programme they're going to describe to you is very current, and it's a very important development in the safety and security space in which so many SFJ Award organisations specialise. And although it isn't a learning and development programme per se, the case study that Brian and David are going to share with you describes their experience of working with the SFJ Awards team and how we help them gain the same kind of text. So reminding you to log your comments and your questions as we progress. Let me now give a very warm welcome to Brian Moore, who's Director of Global Secure Accreditation, and his colleague David Atkin, who's Health and Safety Consultant for the travel industry with Sanderson Phillips.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Moore. Firstly, on behalf of David and myself, could we say a big thank you to SFJ Awards for inviting us along to the event today. It's a pleasure to be here and to meet so many people, albeit virtually. We'd also like to wish SFJ Awards every success for the launch of their new product and service, which we hope everyone tuning in will find valuable. Certainly we have. So the case study before you is about COVID-19 Certificate of International Good Practice, but really David and I are going to use that as a peg to describe how we came to be involved with SFJ Awards, the process that we went through to achieve certification and the benefits that we and our clients receive from it. And we hope you'll find it interesting. So a little bit about who we are. So we specialize in the safety and security of travellers. We established our company in 2015 and spent some 3 years researching not only all the terrible crimes and incidents that we had seen across our careers, but looking at the standards and the regulations that relate to the safety and security for business and leisure travellers. And frankly, we found far fewer standards than we were comfortable with across the world. Whilst many claims were being made about safety and security, stay here a blizzard of comfort, in fact, the objective evidence sat underneath that was not always clear to us. So we set about designing and developing a world-first security accreditation standard for the safety of people staying in hotels, probably the places where people are most vulnerable when they're away. But we would say it's a world first, wouldn't we? But we wanted to make sure that our claims were being independently verified by a credible and experienced organisation which knew the business world well, but knew safety and security well, had the expertise and the background and the experience to be credible and to add value. And we turned to SFJ Awards in 2018. I'm delighted to say that we had our process verified in 2018 after a huge amount of work by SFJ and us. But security never stands still, and new threats to safety have emerged, not least the pandemic, which we've all been exposed to. And we set about designing a new concept, that of health security. And I'll invite David to say a little bit about what that actually means and what it entails. David.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so in terms of the Certificate of International Good Practice for COVID, we realised it was clear early on that there would be a need for accommodation providers to benchmark their response to the pandemic and also demonstrate how they were tackling the virus in their own environments. As to be expected at that stage, there was very little in terms of a global standard. There was lots of information available from the likes of the World Health Organization, European Centre for Disease Control, and we engaged with governments and tourist boards who were obviously rapidly creating their own advice as well. And particularly the countries in Asia who dealt with SARS were particularly useful in terms of how they were looking to tackle COVID. It was a rapidly changing and complex period, and still obviously things are changing very, very quickly with it. But at that time, there was lots and lots of information coming out from various areas, and also lots of varying international requirements. So particularly on hygiene and things like physical distancing, where, as we know in this country, it was 2 meters. In other parts of the world, it was as low as 1 meter. So we had to factor in all these varying standards. So what was important for us was, as we went through the process, was to sense check our own work, and we had a panel of experts to do that. But there by our sides were SFJ Awards sense checking the process as well, and making sure that the framework that we were putting in would ultimately be successful. And then, as Brian said, we came up with this idea of health security, and we took that element one stage further and went on a journey basically of each stakeholder that might enter what we termed the health security perimeter of a hotel. So we looked at the guest journey, the staff journeys, also suppliers, contractors, Any visitors, basically anyone or anything that crossed the health security perimeter would then have to become a consideration for the property. This included obviously things like packages, deliveries, any transportation vehicles that entered the boundary, and also we went even as far as things like retail outlets that were attached to the accommodation. So very, very thorough, and it took a lot of time to tick all the boxes, and it touched every single area of the operation of the hotel, so extremely detailed. All this culminated in, as the slide says, a fairly unique set of standards. We ended up with 53 different elements and over 300 different requirements within those, and that's enabled us to help hotels benchmark exactly where they are. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you. So we'd already had this relationship that we'd established in one part of our activity, and so we moved on. And we were immediately thinking about SFJ Awards. As a director of a commercial business, I really felt SFJ Awards understood the need to facilitate our business and help us achieve our commercial goals, but get the balance right. I firmly believe that anything involves safety to the public, safety comes first. And having someone outside our business objectively asking the why questions and the how questions in an appropriately challenging way, challenging our assumptions, was absolutely invaluable to us. And I commend that to you if you're in a similar field to us. So getting the benefits of early engagement was key. We had a lot to do, as David had said. We got to work with medical professionals. It was challenging pulling all this together, but getting the design right early and getting the key stakeholder SFJ Awards in early was very, very important to us. It was right that we designed a good process ourselves, but it needed to fit well. So our system was efficiently bolting onto SFJs. It meant a speedier, less frustrating service, and one that delivered to our clients much more quickly. Now, we didn't find this easy. Early engagement means lots of extra work, but you get rigor from it. Just developing COVID, we developed 12 different versions, types of the standard. And we took all the significant ones through SFJ to make sure that every stage they were comfortable from their process perspective and from ours, but also that objective, why are you doing this? What's the evidence to support your claim here? One of the most important elements of all was getting the quality control right. As David has said, we developed hundreds, literally hundreds of requirements for each hotel. So times those by the different decision makers in our business, in David's, in SFJ, times the different hotels and contexts, and you could have a recipe for vast inconsistency and unfairness, which would undermine confidence in what we were doing. So designing the quality control system to make sure there was fairness and consistency throughout was, again, just invaluable. But that was my view as a director of GSA. How did it feel on the ground, David, from a consultant's perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So I thought it'd be useful just to share with you how we found the experience. So our health and safety background lends us to lead with lots of companies in the travel safety space. We've been working in partnership with Global Secure for some time. So we were invited to join the project, and what was really good from the outset was it was very collaborative. We're very grateful actually for open and honest feedback from SFJ through that journey. It was invaluable in helping us drive things forward. And then for us, our company particularly, understanding that the process and the framework that we had to work to was very interesting as well. It was slightly different from what we do on a day-to-day basis, and again we were guided by SFJ Awards to make sure that ultimately it was successful. Adapting the process was very much a two-way street. There was a lot of flexibility on both sides in terms of how things needed to look and work, and I think that was really important for us. We had very much had a voice in the process, and we were able to put ideas forward, and our input was very much taken on board. And that was both actually with the standards that clearly needed to be, but also with the process as well, and making sure that everything worked. Okay, back to you, Brian.
Thank you. So it's all very well, but we need to, what are the deliverables? What are the benefits that derive from working so closely like this? Well, as I say, there's massive intelligence out in our marketplace now that travellers are concerned that too many organisations are just marking their own homework, self-certifying that they are safe, that they are great, that they are secure, etc. But they want to see the independence now increasingly, and if we'd had time, we'd show you lots of surveys about this. We believe that having independence internally, that challenge and that rigour keeps us sharp. And it's simply the process of having to present your findings and recommendations in a way that's collated, documented. You can call on the evidence that supports your claim and put that through to SFJ. Now, we pass this rigour on to our clients. Believe me, they have to work very hard to achieve this standard, and not all of them make it. Those who have failed so far either haven't put the resource into being able to collate their evidence. It might be there, but that they haven't assembled it, or they don't have the evidence at all, in which case they're not going to make it. But I can tell you, those who have made it, the sense of achievement is absolutely palpable for them. It's a tremendous team effort inside these hotels that makes them stronger. But I have to say, even more important for them is the fact that it's the bottom line, the commercial bottom line. Now, we're happy that the public is safer staying in hotels because they're being treated under these standards. Our clients are happy with that as well. But really, if I'm candid, for many of them, it's about the competitive advantage, something that demarcates them from others. We've included just a couple of quotes here from a couple of delighted directors and senior managers at hotels, both in London and in Italy, that we worked with. And yeah, very happy, but it's the bottom line. So good standards can mean commercial advantage as well, which is important for everyone who's involved in this process in our marketplace. But that's today. Things keep changing. There's massive standards coming up over the horizon soon for travel risk management. But where do we go with the future projects around health security, David?
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, so we thought we'd just finish off with a little bit of news and what's up next for us. So based on the success of the COVID accreditation that we've gone through with SFJ Awards, we're embarking on other projects. One of them we're going to highlight here, and it's what we're terming at the moment an International Safety Program Award for travel suppliers. So it will again be open to hotels, but also other suppliers in the chain, and the likes of destination management companies, inbound tour operators, transportation activities and excursions providers. And again, we're intending for this to be applicable globally. So an even more complex project, if you like, it's not just dealing with one subject. We're going to be looking at all areas of health and safety with regard to travel. And you'll see at the bottom there two aspects that are probably relatively new to certainly to the health and safety auditing environment, and that is accessibility provision and also sustainability practices. Clearly lots of hotels doing great work in those areas already, but again, benchmarking and global standards, pulling it all together doesn't appear to exist. So we're looking to bring all these elements together. Again, it's a slightly different concept. As I said, there's multiple stages of it. So we're intending that that suppliers and customers that want to go through it will be able to take each individual element in succession, or they'll be able to go for the full award in one stage. And again, even in the early stages, we're very confident that it will provide the appropriate framework for our customers and their suppliers as well, to demonstrate that there is due diligence in place, that they have robust processes. Part of the award will be a gap analysis, and obviously will help clients to fill those gaps. And as I say, we're looking forward to getting started. We're very excited about the project, and again, confident that it will ultimately be successful for us. So that wraps it up really. Brian and I are very happy to take questions from anyone during that section of the webinar, and then back to you, Candace.
Thanks very much, David, and thanks also, Brian. So listen, we've got a number of questions that are going to come up. We've been having a number of people have put some things into the chat, which I can see, which is fantastic. But first off, just to say again, thanks very much to the both of you for coming along today. I think it's great to hear that you and your clients feel that you benefited from working with us, and that's had an impact on the rigor, the overall process, and also the confidence that it then gives you and your customers that they're doing the right thing. And I rather suspect we'll all be on the lookout now for hotels that promote that they do hold a COVID-19 certificate in international good practice as and when we are able to start traveling more widely again. And it's exciting also to hear about your future plans. But let's open the conversation up now to some questions from the audience. We've got about 20 minutes or so to play with. We have had a few come in. And I'm going to go through them and a few others as well that people have been sending in privately as we've been going along. But can I just come to one at the beginning? And obviously, most of what SFJ Awards has been doing is around the recognition of qualifications and the certification of learners completing programs of learning. And I just wonder, I mean, obviously, with yourselves, what we're talking about is certificating a process, and it's a process rather than an individual's learning. And I just wondered what were the particular, or were there any particular challenges for you around how we work with you on that process? And then maybe John, you could say a little bit after that about how that plays out with learning programs. Brian.
Yes, I think I touched a little bit upon this. First of all, we had the internal challenges of getting medical expertise, cultures that hadn't worked together before, you know, to align around a framework that drew on everybody's expertise. And then, of course, you know, that's hard enough work, but having the patience and the foresight to engage key partners, SFJ Awards in this case, early, get them involved at the design stage. It meant a lot of work. It meant a lot of different ways of thinking coming together. But the benefits were we probably did a lot more. We did a huge amount in a short amount of time through good communications and trying to understand everyone else's perspective and agree the way that we were going to operate, sharing ideas freely and openly. And I think it worked really well. So the big challenge is letting go a little bit, getting other people's thoughts involved, assembling it, and let good people, you know, work through a problem together. Don't think you're the only ideas person in the room or in the equation. There are plenty of other good people, and they rally around brilliantly well. So both a challenge as ever, but also a very positive outcome if you can get it right, as I hope we did.
Excellent. Thanks very much. John, do you want to say anything? Because obviously the majority of SFJ Awards business is in the education, learning and development space. How has this differed at all from what you do normally?
Well, fundamentally, it's assessment of a process, a quality assurance process. So what we did, we worked collaboratively to look at the processes that were being applied. So it's literally a quality assurance process that once we knew what the standards were, we looked at how our forms were recording it. Effectively, there's almost the same information going into it. It's what's going to be covered. So we worked together, we adapted what we'd got to resolve that, to produce a really comprehensive package and that confidence in the product that's coming forward. I've got to say that these are the hotels that I would plan on visiting, having gone through, seeing what the check-in process is that they do.
Excellent. Well, okay, I'm definitely going to be looking out for that. I've noticed there's one in Rome, and actually I've noticed we've got quite an international contingent on the webinar today. So folks, if you do want to find one in your country, do get in touch. So I've got a couple of questions, John, I think probably still for you. A couple of people have been asking, do you still operate ALPS, or are they now superseded by the new process and new certifications?
Sure, yeah. So the benefit of bringing this and launching this product is to actually bring all of the processes into one, rather than having multiple programs that fit for different ways. So yes, the current custom qualifications will retire upon expiry. The ALPS will also do so. But what we will do, as I mentioned in the presentation, is at least a month before the kind of end of their shelf life, is we'll sit down and we'll work with the training provider or the organization to identify what's the most appropriate tier, because they may be down as the 1 tier, which was the old, maybe taking the Alps, for example, they may be in that 1 tier, but they might actually, rather than being a certificate of achievement, it might actually be a certificate of completion, which is more appropriate for it. And it gives that breadth of coverage.
I've got one other question, which is still about the process, so probably one for you really, and it's on average, how long is the process if all processes and procedures are already in place? In other words, if obviously what we've heard from Brian and David is that there was work that we did together to help them get their processes and everything right. But if you have a centre and it's a learning programme they've been delivering for a while, perhaps, how long would you say roughly? And I know that's a little bit of how long's a bit of string for you, but roughly, if you could give some idea.
It is how long is a piece of string, but the application process guides us through the forms, the process, the requirements, so we can clearly see what's required. And at the outset, we can structure how long it's likely to take, because we can see from the quality of the processes that are involved. So it could take anything from weeks to months if it's a 40 unit product. That would take significantly longer to validate than it would do for a 1 unit product. So it is how long's a piece of string. However, we work with you to set the timescales and structure that. So it's not particularly time consuming. Okay,
so very much I think I'm hearing from you, John, get in touch, because we'll have to look at it bit by bit.
It's custom.
What it is you want to do. Okay,
absolutely.
So that's helpful. Thanks very much. So another one that's really about that, and actually maybe Brian or David, I might come to you on this one first, which is actually about how long the certification lasts. And I don't know if you want to tell us within your context, with your certificate, how long does that last? And then maybe John, you can say, what does it look like from a general perspective? You're on mute, Brian.
My apologies.
Right.
Usually it's about a year, but it could be a shorter period according to the risks that we see. However, either we or SFJ Awards can call the matter in if there are any grounds for concern, which might lead to suspension or withdrawal of the certificate. Contractually, we insist that the hotel tells us about anything that could be COVID related. But also we have the capability to do some open source research to see if any, from people who stayed there and the staff weren't wearing their masks, or, these kind of things. There's open source intelligence that might suggest things aren't quite as we would be. We could call the matter in and then decide to suspend, review, shorten, etc. the certificate. So usually, if all is going well, about a year, but we don't take anything for granted, and have the ability to alter that if risk suggests it's appropriate to do so. John.
Thank you, John.
And the certificate has a QR code in there, so there's a unique code. So as an independent traveller, I could be looking on the website of the hotel. I can validate that whether their certificate is current and live. Off the back of the QR code, so it independently validates that. But at the same time, as Brian says, that then gives us the opportunity to suspend that certification through that QR code. So it can be real time to the best of intents.
And does that apply, John, for the other forms of certification? Because obviously the other varieties that we're offering now, they're all about qualifications, they're all about learning, achievement. Yeah. So is the QR code on all those certificates?
So all of the certificates will feature a QR code. So from a certificate of achievement, completion, attendance. So the certificates today will have a QR code on there that validates that person has actually attended, and it's live and it's current.
Okay, so if anybody wants to prove to your manager, yes, I was on it, they'll be able to do that. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So possibly one, David, that you might be able to pick up on, and this is around what happens when standards change, because obviously you're part of the expert assessment team. So again, from your perspective, but actually it would apply in a learning program as well. Something is changing. How do you deal with that in this process?
Yeah, so I guess there's 2 stages to that, really. As I said, when the slides were up, the COVID situation was changing, very rapidly, daily almost. We'd have new intelligence or information that had to be taken into consideration. but you know, at some point we had to stick and make a standard. So there was lots of collaboration up to that point, where everybody was comfortable, and in fact, including the length that the certification would be valid for. That was included in that process as well. Just going back to the last question, but once the standard was set, obviously then anything that happened after that, once it was live, was setting precedent, you know, as if you might do in a law court or whatever. So if something changed in terms of requirements, for example, physical distancing changed, then obviously we would take that into account. That would become the precedent. But also, as Brian touched on, we were dealing with lots of different properties in different parts of the world, and it might not have been a legal requirement in their country for them to have some of these requirements in place. So we had to take that into account as well. So there were multiple levels of precedent set as we go through the process and continue to go through it. And you know, there might be a need for another standard in the future once, say, we have a vaccine, or you know, testing becomes much more readily available. I read today that I think Singapore are now piloting a 60-second breathalyzer type test. So things are moving so quickly, but we always had that flexibility to adapt what we were doing as we've gone along with it, which is really good.
Okay, thanks for that. So John, I've got a few more questions here. People asking whether there's the cost is a once, is it renewal, how does it play out in terms? So somebody's come along and they've said, I've got an idea, I want to have this certificated. What actually does that entail? Is it one-off costs you mentioned, and you talked about certificate costs? What else is involved?
There's the initial upfront cost, which is for the actual validation of the resources. So in the case of, if you're an existing centre, which a lot of our callers, the attendees on the webinar are existing centres, so that would be £950 for the initial review. Well, if it was a brand new program, if it's coming through as an existing program, an ALP, and there would be a renewal fee determined by the level of the program that it sits with. And I'm happy to, if people have got particular cases that they want to discuss, I'm happy to go through those with them on a case-by-case basis after the webinar. Okay,
so I just, again, similar things to do with the charges. I've got a couple of questions from people saying, sorry if I missed the answer, to accredit the training session. So is it, how much is it the same when you go in for initial assessment? Is that what gets you to be an SFJ Awards custom certification service provider? Yeah.
Yeah. So the initial application accreditation. So if you're a brand new, not an existing centre, you'd pay £1,500, which covers the recognised centre approval fee. And then when it came to renewal, the annual renewal for that programme, £550. Okay. And that's on the certificate of achievement.
Okay, thank you for that. So I think we've probably covered quite a number of the comments that have coming through. I'm just going to have a quick check and see if there are any others that we maybe haven't yet answered. And I think mostly we have them. So I really would recommend that if anybody wants some very specific detail about a particular either course or an assessment process that you've got in mind that you want to discuss whether custom certification is right for you, you get in touch with John. I think one of the slides has definitely got the info at sfjawards.com address on it. So do just get in touch. We're very happy to have a very easy, no holds conversation with you about any aspect of this. One other question that did come through that I noticed was in relation to well, do we start moving? So I've got an ALP now. Should I start moving it onto this new process now? It's got a term date. I know it's going to come up for reconsideration at some point. Should I begin now?
It would be useful because that smooths the transition across. Obviously, if it's only just been approved in September, you wouldn't need to do that because there's a significant time frame. But things which are coming up to expire in the next 2 to 3 months, then let's book a meeting to work out what's required and a smooth transition of that across.
Okay, thank you. And one other question that I've seen here is that somebody's saying, has SFJ Awards actually got the capability to deal with what might be quite a lot of demand coming through. And I think I can probably answer that one directly, which is that we have in fact scaled up our staffing complement. We've done a bit of realignment within the teams, and we've brought in extra staff to make sure that we're able to do this in as efficient and effective way as possible and meet the demand that we do hope will be there, because we obviously, the reason that we've developed this is on the back of feedback from centres, organisations like those on the call today who've said this is the kind of thing we want. So naturally what we've tried to do is be ready to help you out with that, and hopefully bring you the benefits for that. I think we're probably getting close to the end of the time we've got. According to my clock, I think we've got a couple of minutes left. So I'm just going to final check and see if there are any questions that we haven't answered. I think just a couple of very quick ones. Can the centre set the duration the certificate is valid for?
Yes,
yes,
yeah, absolutely. So if it's a programme where you want to set a renewal, so a bit like a health and safety touchscreen test, so you could say, I want to set it for 2 years or 3 years. That's a feature which we can put into the certification.
Okay, and another one, if I'm an employer, will I be able to check up on this code in order to find out if somebody genuinely comes to me and they've got that? Yeah, absolutely.
So the QR code, anyone can use that QR code. It then directs to our portal where it will say the name of the person that's done that and any details that are relevant to that.
Okay, well, look, folks, thank you very much indeed. Thanks, guys, for your presentations. We're just coming really now to the overall end of the time that we've got. We do want to I just want to say thank you for everybody, and I'll do that in a moment, but I would actually quite like to ask you, if you will, to just please answer the last poll of the day, which is designed to help us deliver and design the future Insights webinars, or indeed if we're able to, physical events that we might even be able to get to. Wouldn't that be nice if we could see some real people as opposed to 2D representations? So if you wouldn't mind, just answer that, please. If you do have, if you want to say other, you've got other ideas, pop them in the chat or email them to us afterwards, if you would, and we'll get a sense of what it is you'd like us to cover, because that's the point of this. While Zoe's pulling that together, let me just say thank you very much indeed, Brian, to David and to John, for I know the effort that's gone into getting your slides and everything together and getting ready to do the presentation. I do appreciate that. I think hopefully we've given everybody a good insight into what the new custom certification services are all about. I would encourage everybody to please get in touch if you want to have a more detailed conversation with one of our team. Thanks also to Zoe to making sure the technology carried on working. I'm delighted to say that we didn't hear phones or anything going off in the background, which are the usual accompaniment to so many of these events nowadays. But actually, crucially, what I want to do is to thank everybody who has logged in and taken part at a distance. I hope you found this useful. Thank you for giving us your questions and your comments over the past hour. I hope we'll see you at future events. Do keep in contact. Do look out for the email with the slides, the link to the relevant pages on our website, and the link within that to the animation. And just finally, your feedback on these events is very important. So please, can you fill in the quick survey, which will pop up as you leave the webinar? Many thanks and good afternoon.